Number 1.
I met Abby on the first day of 2nd grade. I saw her snapping her fingers on the bus seat next to mine. I couldn't snap my fingers, so I was intrigued, and I sat with her so she could teach me. To this day, I can still only snap my fingers on the hand that she taught me. Our friendship was never like the ones they show in movies. Abby had a pretty hard home life and eventually fell in with the wrong crowd. She was into drugs, alcohol and parties, while I was into books, studying and animals. Still, I felt it was my job to save her from it. She was my best friend. The summer before senior year, I was 17 and feeling rebellious. I'd stay more often at Abby's house, where her mum would let us drink in a more safe environment. But then, Abby met a guy and started dating him, Ryan. He creeps me out. He was about 5 years our senior and just off. One day, Abby suggested that we go meet up with Ryan and his friend, Kyle. It turned out that Kyle was the local drug dealer. I wasn't overly comfortable with this, but I wanted to impress Abby and definitely didn't want to leave her alone with them. They started smoking pot and eventually I joined in. The hot air, combined with the alcohol we'd already consumed, made me feel sick. Abby took me outside to cool off and I laid down on the lawn. Pretty soon, the guys come out to check on us. I could hear them laughing and saying something, but honestly in that moment I didn't care. Ryan took us home, and the next morning Abby had told me that my leggings had been sheer and the guys had been talking about the show that I'd put on for them. For a while, I refused to be around Ryan or Kyle. They were weird. I didn't like them at all and they made me feel super uncomfortable. But I was young and dumb and was going through some tough stuff. When Abby suggested I came around again, even though Ryan was there, I went anyway. Right after I got there, Ryan starts talking about how much Kyle liked me. Not wanting to be rude, I said that I was flattered but I wasn't interested. Abby suggested, to cheer me up, that we go to Ryan's house and have some drinks. At this point, even Abby's mum didn't like Ryan being around. I should have known it was a red flag, even when she didn't like him. Abby said that they'd have a cute guy come over for me, so I was placated. We get there, start drinking, and Ryan said Kyle was going to come over for a moment and lighten up the party. I pulled Abby aside and told her how uncomfortable I was with that, but she assured me that he wouldn't stick around long and that my guy would be there soon. Kyle arrives and I'm already smashed. They start smoking and I couldn't stand the smell, so I tell Abby that I'm laying down for a bit and to come and get me when my guy gets there. As I said, I was already drunk. I don't hold my alcohol very well and barely drink to this day. The next thing I remember, I'm waking up, naked and in bed. And meanwhile, Kyle is kneeling over me with his dick in his hand, trying to get it hard. I don't know why, but at that moment I laughed. I guess I just didn't know how to process the information, or perhaps the irony of the situation just got to me. I was depressed that summer due to the fact that I was coming to terms with being sexually abused as a child, and it's ironic that in trying to get over it, it was happening again. Kyle sits back on his haunches, bewildered, and I scurry out of the room to go find Abby and tell her what happened. Abby and Ryan were right outside the door and had heard me giggle. As soon as I start freaking out to Abby, Ryan starts berating me for laughing at Kyle. I couldn't explain why I'd done it, and I don't even have a rational reason now. Both Abby and Ryan said that after I had laid down for a while, I'd come back in and started making passes at Kyle, so we'd gone back to the room. Being naive and 17, I believed Abby. I apologized to Kyle, who was now irate, and told him that I wasn't comfortable. I made Abby take me home, and I quit hanging out with them. Something about that situation just didn't sit right with me. That fall, when school started, a mutual friend came up to me, and what she told me will haunt me for the rest of my life. The first time I had met Kyle and he'd seen this show that I put on, he told Ryan and Abby that if they could get me to sleep with him, he would give them free drugs. When Abby realized I wouldn't sleep with Kyle of my own free will, she decided to get me drunk enough not to know better. She was my best friend.
Number 2.
This is a true tale about a friend I used to have 2 years ago. Her name was Sarah, and I met her in the 7th grade. Back then, she was a normal preteen, much like myself. We were best of friends for 7th and 8th grade. We lost touch after 8th grade graduation because we went to separate high schools, public for her and private school for me. It wasn't until I moved back into my mother's house at the age of 19, pregnant and depressed from my failed relationships with both my father and ex, that I started talking to her again. We picked right back up where we left at the end of the 8th grade and quickly rebuilt our friendship back to best friend status. She even agreed to be my son's godmother. Now, I want to take a moment and tell you a bit about Sarah and myself. We were the same age, our birthdays roughly 2 weeks apart from each other. She was the oldest of 3 girls. We both appeared to look similar almost, both fairly pale skin, glasses and same height and weight. Her hair colour was more blonde compared to my brunette-ish and had blue eyes while I had brown eyes. Back to the story. This takes place a few months after I had given birth. Nothing major had happened between me and her yet, except she was just a little bossy, but I brushed it off as being the eldest sibling. Nothing I couldn't handle. The only thing that I found weird was that she freaked out if I didn't answer her text messages right away, even if I was at work and couldn't without fear of losing my job. But I tried brushing it off as her worrying about me. I had started dating a new guy named Josh. Sarah was actually the one that introduced the two of us together because Josh was a good friend with her boyfriend, Rob. Naturally, I started spending a little more time with Josh, but still spent a lot of more time with Sarah. She didn't take this very well and tried causing problems for me and Josh. After having a sit down with Sarah, telling her that I wasn't going to give up our relationship, but neither was I going to push a guy I really liked away, she seemed to have gotten the message and backed off. She hit the fan shortly after Josh and I moved into an apartment together. Sarah demanded to spend more time with me while Josh was at work. I really had no problem with it, but her bossiness started to reach unbearable levels. She didn't ask to stay for dinner, simply said she was staying. Asking her to leave for the night fell upon deaf ears and many times crashed on our sofa. It got to the point that she started tagging along on our dates, so we simply started not going out. I tried talking to her, but she kept saying that if I was a real friend, I wouldn't mind her being there at all. Well, we managed to get one free weekend without Sarah. She had gone to some water park with her family, so Josh and I got to spend some much needed alone time together. However, because of the strain Sarah caused us, we had a hard time enjoying each other. I refused to end my relationship with him and we tried hard to work it out. We tried talking to her boyfriend, Rob, asking if he could help us. He said they were planning on getting an apartment together at the beginning of the following month, but told us it was looking like it wasn't going to be in the same complex as us. I could deal with that. I figured she would want to spend more time in her new place, decorating it and hosting dinners for her friends and family. Also, note, I had gotten my hair done earlier in the week. I got an awesome new haircut that looked great and I loved it a lot. I got many compliments on it from various friends. Well, when Sarah came back from her mini vacation, she had dyed her hair to the exact same colour as mine and gotten it cut the exact same way. I didn't really mind too much. It was a pretty sweet haircut, but both Josh and I couldn't get over how weird it was that we were looking like twins now. She even got coloured contacts to wear under her glasses that changed her eyes to the colour of brown, like mine. One night, later that week, I was hanging out with another mutual friend of ours without Sarah. Her name was Heather. Heather and I had gotten around to talking about Sarah when Heather casually said, "You know she's jealous of your life, right? She's even got a huge crush on Josh and you." I really had no idea. She didn't say anything about it to me, and I had no idea she had harboured feelings like that for me. She's had many different boyfriends over the years. After that, I started to notice a shift in Sarah. She wanted to spend even more time alone with me, and oddly enough, more alone time with just Josh. On one of those nights, she tried to kiss me. Now, I have no problem with someone being gay. I've had many friends who are, but I'm not, and everyone knows that I'm not. I like guys way too much. I told her this, and she went crazy. She told me that I was a lying cunt, and that I was leading her on, and that I had to kiss her back because she said so. I told her no, I didn't, and that I didn't lead her on. She left shortly after to meet up with Rob and Josh while I took care of my son. I didn't really think anything of it until Rob came over, saying that Sarah kicked him out of the house because she wanted to talk to Josh alone. I filled Rob in on what happened, what Heather said, and my feelings. He sensed something weird was going on. I got Heather to come over and watch my son while Rob and I went over to their apartment to confront her. We found her in bed with Josh. Naturally, both Rob and I were upset. Rob and I just left and he crashed on my sofa for the night, though I don't think neither of us really did much sleeping. The next day, I broke up with Josh and Rob broke up with Sarah. Rob ended up moving back in with his father and just cut ties with Sarah and Josh completely. Sarah blamed me for the ending of her relationship with Rob and vowed to make my life a living hell. She kept her apartment in the same complex as mine and tried very hard to get me in trouble with our landlord. At random times, the landlord would stop by saying that I had a noise complaint against me, or said that someone complained about some awful smell coming from my place. After the third time he came by saying that someone saw a rat coming out of my door, did he realize that someone was actually trying to cause me trouble. When Sarah learned that this wasn't working, she started calling my home phone and cell phone at random times. Never said anything, and all the calls were restricted, but I knew it was her. From my window, I could see into her apartment and always saw her looking out at my window while on the phone. On the phone the exact times my phones were ringing. I quickly changed my phone numbers and that was the end of that day. No one besides my mum and work had them, and neither cared for Sarah much after learning what she had done. When she realized that she couldn't get a hold of me via phone, she took to blowing up my email on MySpace and Facebook. Obviously, it didn't take me long to block her on that too. However, this takes the cake. Apparently, she had a copy of my key. I don't know how she got it. I never gave her a copy. I figured Josh might have given her one when they started to be sexually active, or else she just stole Josh's and made her own copy. She took to entering my house when I wasn't home. At first, I started noticing little things disappearing or being moved. My bills were no longer on the kitchen counter but on the dining table. My favourite shirt had gone missing. Cordless phone across the room from where I last remember setting it down. I thought I was simply losing it and misplacing things. This went on for 2 or 3 weeks until bigger things were missing. My son's DVD player, my keyboard, cell phone charger, bath soaps, towels, and even my son's baby blankets were all taken. Naturally, I did the most logical thing and called the police and landlord. The landlord changed out my locks ASAP and the cops agreed to talk to Sarah. They said they wouldn't be able to do anything unless she let them in and or admitted to it, but they would still try to talk to her. And this is what I was told. They knocked on the door. She opened it wide enough for them to see the wall behind her. On this wall was hundreds of photos of me, either alone at work or at the store or with my son at the park, store, etc. It wouldn't have been so creepy if it weren't for the fact that she wrote in big letters with red paint, "Die, you fucking cunt," with my name in it. It covered some of the photos and the wall. The police were able to search her place. They found journals full of writing saying how she wanted to kill me, how she was going to do it, and other messed up things. She had my work schedule written on her calendar, and on a certain day she circled it and marked as Kill Day. Police also found an unregistered gun and a huge knife in her apartment. She was arrested. I promptly moved out and back to my mum's house. I found a new job and changed my appearance. I cut off contact with all mutual friends and found a new job. I haven't seen or heard from her in 3 years now. For all I know, she's still in jail. I just count my lucky stars.
Number 3.
A quick backstory here. I'm 18 and I live in a lower middle class townhome complex with my divorced mum and my little brother. My mum was out of state for a week at the time and my little brother was staying at our dad's house for the week. I don't drive, so there were no cars outside my house. An 18-year-old me with the house to myself for a week, with a mum who's perfectly fine with me smoking weed in the house and giving me a permission to have a few friends over while she was gone. Every teen's dream growing up, right? Yeah, except it ended up a little different than that. The first day, I came home from a 10-hour shift at the gas station I work at, which is a half a mile down the road from my house. I walk home, head into my basement, smoke a bowl, and fall asleep with my cat. A few hours later, I wake up with an uneasy feeling. It's 1 a.m. and I hear footsteps upstairs. My cat is on my bed and my dog is at a dog daycare for the week. I hear drawers upstairs being opened and I immediately grab my switchblade and call 911. They send a squad car out and I stay on the phone. I hear someone coming downstairs. With my bed just being in the basement due to the bedroom essentially being the size of a closet, I'm the first thing they'll see when they come downstairs. I jumped to my feet, dropped my phone and drew my switchblade. The door opens, the light turns on, and in walks a man around my age, wearing a backpack and holding a crowbar. 5'10", 140 pounds, scrawny and shirtless me is standing there with a mere 4-inch knife locking eyes with a man I've never seen before inside my house holding a crowbar. He jumped just as high as I did when he saw me. With a surge of foolish confidence, I point the knife towards him and told him not to step towards me. Funny, considering his crowbar had a solid foot of reach over my knife. He shouted,
"What the fuck? Bro, we didn't think anyone was here. I'm not looking for a fight, man."
I hear quick and heavy footsteps coming down and a voice saying,
"Yo, what the fuck are you doing here?"
A second man emerges through the doorway. This one is holding a pistol and is pointed at me once he notices me. His eyes light up, as do mine as I realize who I'm looking at. It's an old elementary school friend that I drifted out of contact with. I had some friends who started to talk to him recently, but I heard that he turned into recreational Xanax addict, and I didn't want to be associated with that, so I never bothered getting back in contact. Turns out, that's exactly why they were robbing my seemingly empty house, for Xanax money.
"Josh?"
he said in a questioning voice as he lowered the gun.
"Fuck, dude, I don't know what to say."
At this point, the door slammed open and the police rushed into the house, eventually coming downstairs and arresting the two. It didn't even dawn on me until the cop that stayed downstairs to talk to me jokingly mentioned it that I had a bong on a desk next to my bed, roughly an ounce of weed on the desk, and the basement had to have smelled pretty strongly too. Luckily, the cop ended up being cool about my weed and just said put it away. So yeah, I'm not a storyteller by any means, but I thought you guys would enjoy this. Hey guys, it's that Grim Raider here. So, thank you very much for listening through that, I appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed, what are you doing? Come on, you've got to subscribe. I mean, you might as well just slap a like, just throw in a comment here and there, you know, just because you can, really. I mean, nothing's stopping you from doing it, right? Nah, but seriously, thank you very much for listening through. If you want to listen to more stories like this, on the screen, you can click on either video, that's the 2 previous videos, or you can go in the description and there's also a link to the previous video. There's also a playlist link which will lead you to a lot of videos very similar to this with hundreds of awesome stories like these. So yeah, with that I'll leave you with thank you very much, and you'll hear from me very soon.